Jack Driscoll is exhausted. He's climbing the cliff on pure adrenaline. 100 feet below him, there's a raging river, but maybe 24 feet above him is the ledge that Kong calls his home. And he knows that his love, Andera, was up there. High above him in the sky, the moon is full, and it's lit up the whole sky, and circling in front of the moon, he sees what look like two giant bird-like lizards, pterodactyls perhaps, flying around in the sky. He decides he's going to make the final push for the last 24 feet, and his foot slips against a rock, and the rock falls, clack, 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 splash, down to the river below. Jack flattens himself out against the cliff face, and he freezes, and he sees up above the head of a giant 30-foot gorilla, looks down over the ledge to see him there, but he can't see him. He's cast a shadow over Jack, and Jack freezes. He's not moving. But up above, in the sky above, the two pterodactyls, one of them wheels over, and it dives for the cliff top. He hears Andera scream, and Kong retreats back over the cliff. Jack sees his opportunity, and he finishes climbing up to the top of the ledge, and when he gets up to the top of the ledge, what he sees is a giant pterodactyl has Anne in its claws, and Kong has the thing by the throat. It's beating him with his wings, and it's pecking at his eyes, and he's wrestling with her, and this thing is pecking at him, and it's got Andera in its clutches, and Jack doesn't know what to do. Then the other pterodactyl, it dives down, and it grabs Kong in the back of the shoulders with its claws, and it's beating him with the wings and pecking him on the back of the head. And Kong is trying to fight this thing off, and finally the first pterodactyl drops Andera, and Jack sees his chance. He runs across the ledge. He says, Anne, come on, let's get out of here. And Anne says, no, Jack, you've got to get out of here. If he catches you here, he'll kill you. He says, I'm not leaving without you, Anne. Come on, grab onto my shoulders. She wraps his arm around his shoulders, and he grabs a vine, throws it over the ledge, and they start to climb down while Kong is battling the two pterodactyls up above. And as they get halfway down the vine, they hear the pterodactyls scream, and their bodies fall past them into the river below. And then they hear Kong up on the ledge above, and he looks over the cliff, and he sees Jack and Andera climbing down the vine. He reaches down the vine, and he starts to pull them back up to the cliff top. Jack says, Anne, do you trust me? And she says, of course I do, Jack. And he lets go of the vine. They plummet hundreds of feet down to the river below. They hit the water, sploosh! It goes up past their ears. They shoot to the bottom of the river. Their lungs are bursting, swimming back up to the top. They get to the top of the river, and they're immediately swept away by the current. Jack looks back, and he sees, up on the ledge, the huge gorilla, silhouetted in the moonlight, roaring for the woman it lost. They rush down the river for a couple of hours, and finally they pull themselves out of the stream just as the sun's starting to come up. The sky is starting to turn gray. Across the valley floor, there's the wall with the big gate in it. But off on the other side is the forest. And they see the trees rustling, and they hear Kong roaring in the forest, getting closer and closer. He's chased them across land. So Jack says, and we've got to run for it. And they start to run across the valley floor as fast as they can. As they approach the gate, they see one of the men of the adventurers up on the top of the gate, and Jack yells, open the gate! Open the gate! And the man shouts down to the other side. He says, open the gate! It's Driscoll and Miss Darrow! And so the men of the bench, the crew, they grab hold of the big log that bars the gate, and they start to push it open. Carl Denham grabs his camera, and he gets back up on top of the wall, and he sets up his tripod, and he starts to yell, as Jack and Anne are running across the valley. And then he sees in the forest beyond, he sees the trees shaking, and he hears a roar of Kong coming. So he lifts the camera, and he points it at the forest. Just in time, Jack and Anne, they slip right through the gate, and Carl sees the giant gorilla come out of the forest and look at the gate. He sees that the gate is starting to close. He roars, and he starts to run on all fours across the valley floor. He's heading for the gate. He's going to smash into it. Carl shouts down to the men below. He says, get ready, men, here he comes! And they get the gate closed just in time. He slides a bolt against it when, bam! Kong hits the gate really hard, and it shakes the whole wall, and Carl says, I've got to get down. So he grabs his tripod and his camera, and he goes down to the sand below. He sets up his tripod, puts the camera right on the gate. On either side of the gate, there's the crew of the Venture. They're holding onto ropes and grappling hooks, and they're getting ready for Kong to burst through the gate. Bam! Kong hits the gate again, and the log that bars it begins to splinter. Bam! He hits the gate a final time, and the log smashes into a million pieces, and splinters fall all over the crew. The gate, bam! Flings open, and there, standing, framed in the huge gate, is Kong, the king of Skull Island. He roars, "Rah!" The villagers, they come out of their huts, and they start chanting, Kong, 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 Rah! Carl yells, now! And the men throw their ropes over Kong's back, and they pull him down to the ground, and the gorilla is smashed flat, ground, and he's wrestling against these ropes, but he can't get loose. Captain Englehorn runs up. He's got one of those gas bombs, and he throws it right into Kong's face. And Kong starts to get groggy, but he sees across the sand through all the huts. He sees Jack and Aunt Darrow running from one of the longboats trying to escape. And he gets angry. He shakes off the effects of the gas bomb. He pushes himself up in the sand. The rope burns through the men's hands. And Kong gets back to his feet. And with each arm he smashes down. 6 men on each side. And he starts to run for the longboat with Jack and Aunt Darrow. Going down the beach, Carl Denham with the camera. The natives are shouting, Kong, 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 Kong. The men are shooting, come back, come back, come back. The Kongs are stepping on him, digging out, biting their heads. Jacob's down. They can't be stopped. He can't be stopped. He's heading down from the beach, getting closer and closer. The only thing between him and Aunt is Jack and Carl and his camera. And as he gets closer and closer, finally at the last minute, Carl stands up and he throws a gas bomb straight into Kong's face. But he shakes it off, and he keeps coming. And Kong closer, closer, one more bomb. And finally, he collapses. Boom! Sand flies up into the air. And when the dust clears, Carl Denham walks up to the gorilla, and he sees him. He says, "It's all right, boys. He'll be out for hours. Come on up. Let's send in the ship for anchor chains and tools. What are you going to do, Denham? We're going to build a raft and float it back to the ship. Why, people will pay a fortune to see this thing." "No chain's going to hold that." "Oh, we'll give him more than chains. He's always been king of his world, but we'll teach him fear. We're going to be millionaires, boys, and I'll share it with all of you. Why, in a few months, we'll have his name up on lights on Broadway. Kong, the 8th wonder of the world!"